To say thank you to everyone, both from Sea Grant and from near CTP, for helping set up. Definitely takes a village. Also, big thanks to the City of Slidell and the people that run this venue, and the mayor of Slidell especially. They have helped prepare this room, but also give us this room for free, which is really nice. And also to our guest speakers for their generosity of time in preparing their presentations, and also for driving and flying all the way from places like Georgia and Florida. It's really great to have you all here. I'd like to ask the near CTP people to take a moment to talk about their program. That's right, if Jacqueline or Holland, one of you want to say something?
I'm Jacqueline Rose, and I'm the regional coordinator for the Gulf of Mexico Coastal Training Program, and that's a partnership among the 5 NEARs that are in the Gulf of Mexico, in Texas. There's 2 in Florida, 1 in Mississippi, and 1 in Alabama. And we're happy to be partnering with Emily and Sea Grant in Louisiana because it's the only state where there's not a National Estuarine Research Reserve, so thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, so that's the CTP, which we've partnered with to help bring you this set of presentations today. So as you may have already realized, I'm with the Sea Grant-GoMRI outreach program, and yeah, I just want to tell you a little bit about that before we start everything off today, so that you have a little bit of context for why we're having this. Given the makeup of this audience, just from looking at all the registration forms, it seems like you're probably all really familiar with Deepwater Horizon, so there's no need to go into that. But what about some of the organizations that are trying to bring science to people? And I represent one of those groups. So Sea Grant, there's a Sea Grant in the Gulf of Mexico, 4 programs: Texas, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi and Alabama share a program. And then there's also this entity, GoMRI, the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative, which you may or may not be familiar with. Hopefully within the next 15 minutes you will be. So who is Sea Grant? Sea Grant, there's 33 programs nationwide, and I like to tell people that if there's a big body of water, whether it's an ocean or a Great Lake, or in our case, the Gulf of Mexico, there's probably a Sea Grant program near you. And as I mentioned, there's 4 of them in the Gulf region alone. We have a history of more than 40 years serving this region, and we're both federally and state funded through NOAA and through the states. We're non-advocacy, so that means that we try to bring you the best available science, but we don't tell you what to think one way or another. We're non-regulatory. In some circles, we're known as the honest broker. So we give you this information, we say, okay, take it, you make up your mind what you think should be done with it. We have 3 areas of emphasis, one of which is extension, which is what we're doing today. We take research from the lab, from the scientists who are doing it, and we extend it to you. So we paired up with GoMRI. GoMRI is the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative, and as you may or may not be aware, it's a $500 million investment over a 10-year period from BP from non-penalty funds. And as you can see, it's already funded a great deal of research. More than $330 million worth of money has already been allocated to research projects and outreach efforts. 565 publications, 600-something data sets. A lot of information is out there because of GoMRI, and so we partnered with them to try to help deliver oil spill science information to people. And the goal of GoMRI is really to help people understand and better deal with Deepwater Horizon, whether that's better responding to oil spills or just understanding how it's breaking down in the environment and how it's going to affect people and fisheries, habitat, things of that nature. So GoMRI has 5 focus areas, areas that they fund their research. So understanding the fate and transport of oil and dispersants, understanding the chemical and biological breakdown of those oil and dispersant mixtures, and what are the toxicological effects, understanding the health and environmental effects as well. technology developments in terms of improved response and how to better mitigate the oil spill, and also understanding the public health implications. So what are the socioeconomic impacts? What's the community capacity like in terms of bouncing back from a spill? So there's a couple of tools that GoMRI has that I'd like to tell you about before we get into stuff. And these are some tools that you can go home and use right away. These are free and they're available on the GoMRI website. So the first one is called Grid-C, and this is a database. So one of the stipulations of GoMRI funding is that if you receive money for your research grant, you have to put your data set on this database and make it publicly available. So there's a lot of transparency here. So if you go to the webpage, this is what you see. You can search for data, you can submit data if you're a researcher. You can see there's a lot of data sets, more than 600, and it includes more than 221 projects. So a lot of information is out there already. I like to tell people that we don't know everything about the spill, but we definitely know a whole lot more than we did 5 years ago. And a lot of that information is publicly available because of things like Grid-C. So if you, for example, if you go onto this database and you type in the word marsh, this is sort of what you end up with. You can see, you can search through the different projects according to the year that they were funded or the grouping of grants that they came with, and then you can get all these different outputs, all the different projects that are associated with the word marsh. Then, for example, this was one of the projects that I pulled up, not to put Deepak on the spot, but his project came up, and so you can see the point of contact, you can get the email address for the person who loaded the data set, there's metadata available, you can read the abstract, like what kinds of data there is, so before you start downloading stuff, you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. And then lastly, you can download it. And I actually did try to download it, and you get this really nice Excel file with all the data neatly managed, and you can see what's out there. So it's very transparent, very easy to use, and I encourage you all to take a look. The next thing is the GoMRI publication database. And so again, you can go on there, type in keywords, say wetland, and then you'll get all kinds of publications coming up, and you can sort them according to year and different things that you're interested in, and there are further search filters. So it's a really good resource, particularly given y'all's line of work. It could be very useful. So those are things that GoMRI is doing on the research end. But once you have this research, right, you don't want it to just sit on a shelf somewhere and languish. You want it to get out to the public. You want it to get out to people who could use it, right, in their day-to-day jobs. So GoMRI has funded several research consortia, each of which have their own outreach efforts. And they've also funded all kinds of other outreach activities, which I'm not going to list them all, but you can see some of them here. And one of those is the Gulf of Mexico Sea Grant Program's Oil Spill Outreach Team, which I'm a member of. So we're not looking to compete with any of these other existing outreach efforts, but we try to complement them as best we can. So with this oil spill outreach program that Sea Grant has come up with when partnering with GoMRI, it consists of 4 specialists, one of which is me, and 1 coordinator. And so going from west to east, we've got Christine Hale at Texas Sea Grant, and she specializes in GoMRI Theme Area 3, Environmental Health Effects. I'm in Louisiana Sea Grant in Baton Rouge, and I look at Theme 2, Understanding the Chemical and Biological Impacts of Deepwater Horizon. Larissa Graham is at Mississippi Alabama Sea Grant, and she focuses on Theme Area 3, Public Health. And then finally we have Monica Wilson at Florida Sea Grant, and she looks at more of the fate and physical transport of oil and dispersants. And then finally we have Steve Sempier, who's in here. I can't find him, he's somewhere here. He's been running around, oh there you are, a lot. So he's, we have this big regional effort. We work not just within each of our home states, but we also work regionally as well. And so when you have that kind of 4-person interdisciplinary, crazy team. You need someone that can kind of keep everything coordinated and the effort all going in the same direction. So that's what Steve does for us. So who do we work with? We work with audiences that Sea Grant has traditionally worked with, and we just sort of extend those bonds to now include oil spill outreach as well. So as you can see here, we work with a pretty diverse bunch of people, and we've in total regionally met with more than 600 people from those target audiences. And in those meetings, we try to assess what things they're interested in, but also what sorts of oil spill things they would have wanted to know 5 years ago. What would have helped you do your job better during the spill? So actually, at the end of today's session, we're going to be doing an input session, which I really hope that you all take part in, because we want to get to know you better. We want to better understand what kinds of things you need to know on your job, what will help you do your job better, and how can we get that information to you in the best possible way. Also, if you open up your folders, just behind your agendas, there's an input and evaluation form, like a short form of it, and I'm hoping that you'll also fill that out and place it in the basket back there at the registration desk before you leave here today. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this specialized oil spill team, we are trying to get oil spill science out there to different groups of people. And one of those ways that we're doing that is through things like publications, through outreach publications. And here are a couple of examples of ones that are coming out soon. We have Understanding the Effects of Deepwater Horizon on Seafood, Understanding the Impacts on Fisheries and Fisheries Management. So these are just a couple of topics that touch on subjects that, from the 600-something people that we've talked about, these are issues that people really care about. So those are a couple of examples. We also do other types of outreach things as well, which I'll talk about in a second, but really at the heart of all of our outreach efforts really is that we use only peer-reviewed, published science. So it's not hearsay, it's not something that you see on the news necessarily, it's all rigorously tested, peer-reviewed, published science. And that's what you're going to be hearing today from our guest speakers. And I think that's a really important point. So in addition to those outreach publications, we also do organized science seminars like the one you're at here today with experts in their fields. So you're hearing it firsthand from the scientists themselves, what they found. And also, we're doing these input sessions to try to gauge what you care about. So lastly, I'd like to let you know that we do have this webpage, if you're not already familiar with it, and we constantly update it with upcoming presentations, information about upcoming publications. So if you want to stay in the loop, and if you're not already on our email list, please send me an email, visit our website, check it out. There's a lot of good information there.